Okay, so today we're going to be on 125 to page 127. Your homework is activity 2, 3, and 4. So that's going to be covering two different topics. First is los pronombres después de las preposiciones, which would be the pronouns after prepositions. And the second is on 126, the topic that says verbo y preposición y infinitivo. So that would be a verb plus a preposition plus an infinitive. So that's what we'll be talking about today. And it's in light of the vocab that you should have looked at the end of last week. So open up to 125 if you're not already there and read along with me. The personal pronouns used after prepositions are the same as the subject pronouns except for me and ti. So let's just make sure we understand what it's saying. What are subject pronouns? Somebody tell me. What is this? What is a pronoun? Okay, what is a subject? A subject is a noun, or at least most of the time it's a noun. So what is a subject pronoun? Him or his. Those are pronouns, but they're not subject pronouns. So a subject, what function in a sentence does a subject fulfill? Okay, guys, come on. What subject does a subject, or what function does a subject fulfill in a sentence? What does it do? Riley? All right, you know what? Everybody stand up. Everybody's too sleepy, I think. Everybody stand up. Stand up. Come on. We're going to wake up. Okay? Okay, so feet shoulder width apart. Come on, spread your feet apart a little bit. Reach to the sky. Yep. Mountain pose, mountain pose. And then breathe out as you bring your arms down. Yeah. Now breathe in and raise your hands. And breathe out again. Okay, now we're going to do some downward dog. Just Okay. I want you to wake up though. Okay? So, have a seat. What does a subject do in a sentence? What is the point of having a subject? Why do we have a subject? What do they do? Okay, subject is the main idea. Almost. The subject is the noun, like you said. It's the noun doing the action of the verb. Right? Whatever the verb is, let's say Mr. Grafe is talking nonsense, period. Okay? Who's the subject? Mr. Grafe. Why? Because, what? Because he's doing the action, exactly. So, Mr. Grafe is the subject. He's doing the action, which makes the action what? What do we call the action? The verb, exactly. So, when we say something is a preposition, and specifically a subject preposition, then a subject preposition is a preposition of what kind? It's the kind of preposition that is a subject. So if the subject is the thing in the sentence that does the action, then the subject preposition is doing the action. So like Aiden said, him or her, they are prepositions, but they're not subject prepositions because you would never use those words. I'm sorry, they're not subject. Yeah, subject prepositions. Thank you. Subject pronouns. Good catch. They are not subject pronouns because you would never use him or her as a subject. So, for example, I would never say him shut the door, or her kicked him, right? You would never use him or her as the one doing the action. What word would you use as a subject pronoun? He or she, exactly. So those are subject pronouns, but what we're looking around at here are personal pronouns used after prepositions, but it says that they're all the same as the subject pronouns with the exception of me and you. In other words, in Spanish, I would never say he kicked he or he went after he, but I would say he went after he in Spanish. Okay, él, he is the same word in both cases. So, if I want to say the sentence, I'm going to prepare a poster for you, the word you is not the same word in Spanish as the word that we would use when we say you talk. Tu hablas, but in this case, after the preposition para, for you, the word after the preposition is not tu, it's ti. So, voy a preparar un postre para ti, for you. So, these are pronouns that follow prepositions. And you should know prepositions because there is a bunch of them on page 124. So, take a moment, look over page 124 like we did last week. Make sure that you know or you're becoming familiar with those prepositions for just a moment. Okay, so on 125, the pronouns that we use after prepositions are me, mi with an accent mark for me, ti with an accent mark for you, él, ella, usted, nosotros, nosotras, vosotros, vosotras, ellos, ellas, and ustedes. So if I were to ask you on a quiz, what is the third person plural masculine pronoun when used after a preposition, what would you say? Which of these would be the option that is the same or that's defined as third person plural masculine pronoun after a preposition? Ellos. Excellent. Good. And if I were to say which pronoun is the subject pronoun for third person plural masculine, which one would you say? This is a subject pronoun, and it's third person plural masculine. It would still be ellos because they don't change except for me and ti. What is the subject pronoun for first person singular? Subject pronoun means I, right? Because I do the action. So what is the word for I in Spanish? Yo, exactly. And that's different from me because it's after a preposition. Okay, so notice that me has an accent mark to distinguish it from the possessive adjective me, which means my. So possessive adjective means it's an adjective describing a noun, and it's possessive because it's describing possession. So the word me without an accent means my, as in mi libro, my book. But the word me with an accent, and they're said identically, but they're spelled differently. The word me with an accent means me, as in like M-E in English. The special endings migo, like conmigo and contigo, occur with the preposition con. So these are pronouns, me, ti, él, ella, usted, and the rest. These are pronouns that follow prepositions. Con, which means with, is a preposition. But this is an irregular one because rather than saying con mi, which means with me, it changes to one word, which is conmigo, and the same for you, contigo. with you. So if I want to say for me, you say para mí. If I want to say with me, you say conmigo. And that's one word. So everyone say that. Say para mí. Everyone say para mí. Like a question. Ask it like a question. Para mí? For me? Everyone together. Para mí. Try again. Para mí. One more time. Para mí. Like if somebody says blah 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 para ti, and you're like, oh, para mí, for me, you could say that. Now everyone say with me. It's not con me, it's conmigo. So everyone say conmigo. Para mí. Conmigo. Para ti. Contigo. What does contigo mean? With you. Good. Okay. That is pronouns after prepositions. Short and sweet. Okay, so turn the page, please, and let's talk about verbo y preposición y infinitivo. You can read along. It says, when one verb directly follows another verb, the second verb is usually in the infinitive. So when one verb follows another verb. Margarita quiere escribir un libro. In other words, Margarita wants, quiere. So Margarita is the what? She's the somebody. Is Margarita the verb? Come on, guys. Do we need to do some more yoga? So Margarita is the what? Thank you. Subject. And what's the verb? Escribir is a verb, but which verb is the one that describes what Margarita is doing? Only one of them. It's quiere, because that's the only one that's conjugated, right? Remember, we said that every time a verb has a subject, it changes a conjugation. So if you're going to say that Margarita is doing something, then the verb needs to reflect who's doing what. So quiere. The verb querer means to want. And if you want to say that Margarita is wanting, you need to change the verb to conjugate the verb from querer, which means to want and has no subject, to quiere, which is a third person singular subject, which fits for Margarita. However, this is what it's saying. When a verb is used after a conjugated verb, you use the infinitive. But that's what we do in English too. If I wanted to say this in English, I would say Margarita wants to write a book. Margarita, the subject, wants is conjugated in English from to want to wants. It looks different. It adds an S and drops the to. But then in English, we don't say she wants writes. We say she wants to write. We say the infinitive, to write, because it follows a conjugated verb. And it's the same thing in Spanish. So, Margarita quiere escribir. She wants to write un libro. Or the next one. Ella espera comenzar el libro en el verano. She hopes, ella espera, she hopes, comenzar, to start or to commence the book in the summer. Some verbs must be followed by a preposition before the infinitive is added. So notice in English we say, she wants to write. The word to is a preposition and we put it in between, but in Spanish you don't, except for some verbs. So in this case, este verano Marcos aprende a manejar. This summer Marcos learns to drive, a manejar. En junio comienza a tomar clases. In June, he starts to take classes. Okay, so the list below contains some of the most common verbs that follow the pattern of a verb plus a preposition plus an infinitive. So that's what this section is about. Most verbs that you use after a conjugated verb are just an infinitive. She wants to write. Ella quiere escribir. There's no preposition. But some verbs, including the verbs in this list, add the word a in between, like we do in English. Do you understand the difference that it's talking about? Raise your hand if you understand. Okay, let me write it on the board. Okay, so Margarita, let's say ella, which means what? What does ella mean? She, right, okay. She, which makes this a noun, it makes it a subject, and it makes it a pronoun, right? So that's she. Ella quiere. What does quiere mean? What does the word quiere mean? This word specifically. Camille? It comes from a verb, from querer, which means what? What does querer mean? Okay, everybody should know how to say this because you're all 10th graders, which means boys like girls and girls like boys. Okay? Te quiero. Quiero is the O, which means I'm doing the action. Te means you, but you're the one receiving the action. So I, something, you. Any guesses? I, you. Any guesses what that means? I want. Exactly. I want you. In Spanish, to say te quiero, I want you, it means I love you. Okay? So now you all know how to be romantic with each other. So, quiero, or quiere, is not quiero, but it comes from the same verb. And since it has an E ending, it's O, es, e. So it's third person singular of this verb, which means what? To want. So what does quiere mean? Not to want, that's querer with an infinitive. Quiere, third person singular. Who's doing the wanting? She, exactly. All right, so she wants. Or just wants. She wants escribir. Okay, now, we said that quiere does not end in an R, so it doesn't mean to want. It's conjugated. It means she wants or he wants. Querer does end in an ER, and it means to want because it's an infinitive. This is an infinitive, but it's an IR verb, right? So, what does this mean? What does escribir mean? It's to something because it's an infinitive. I can't hear you. Teach. Not teach, to scribe, to write. So escribir means to scribe, to write. Okay, escribir means to write. So she wants to write. And we could just leave it there. She wants to write. This is what we're talking about. We have two verbs right here. One is here and one is here. Both of them are verbs, but only one of them is the main verb because this is the one that tells you what she's doing. Is she writing? She wants to write. Is she writing? No, she's not. Exactly. So that means that escribir is not the verb that we conjugate because she's not writing. She's not doing it. And so it doesn't connect with this one. It connects with this verb. What does she want to do? She wants to write. So we say to write. Infinitive, to write. We don't say ella quiere escribe. Right? Escribe means she writes. But that's wrong because we only use infinitives after a conjugated verb. It wouldn't make sense to say, she wants, she writes. It only makes sense to say she wants, and then an infinitive, to write, in English and in Spanish. The difference is that there's no word here. There's no word for to, the word to. She wants, and then the word write, or to write. The English, the word for to, is already inherent in the infinitive. But the lesson for today is explaining that there are some words where you still have to add the word a, which means to the words. And that's what the list is there. A list of verbs that when you have these verbs, is it after? Yeah, when you use these verbs before another infinitive, you need to include the preposition a. So, invitar, she wants, or she invites, let's say, invita a, she invites, let's see, ella le invita, she invites him to do something, I don't know, leer un libro, to read a book, okay? Because invitar is one of the verbs in that list that has a preposition, you have to include the preposition a, whereas with the verb querer, to want, you did not have to do that. Does that make more sense now? Can you raise your hand if you understand a little better? Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay.